Both front.
Woo!
How about that one?
That's our new leaders right there.
Big Stewie!
University of Montevallo, 24-96.
The University of Montevallo wins its third straight title.
What's up, everybody? It's time for another new episode of the Rapala We Collegiate Bass Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Curry. Today being joined by Anderson Jones from 4th-ranked Lander University. Anderson getting a major win at the Bassmaster College Series event at Clarks Hill over in Georgia just last week. 2-day total weight of 43 pounds, 15 ounces. Anderson, we'll go ahead and bring you in here, man. Been about a week now since you won that tournament. What's it been like? Has it really sunk in that you just accomplished what you did over there?
You know, day two when I got the trophy, it did not sink in at all. I was pretty stunned and shocked. I had a lot of thoughts running through my head. I had a lot to process, especially by myself, unfortunately. But it sunk in the day after, and you know, I've been dreaming of getting a trophy from Bass for a very long time, and for it to happen, man, I'm blessed. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah, still without words. We can sense it and hear it. That's always fun to talk to anglers once they go out, get that big win, come back, get in the studio and talk to them and hear that raw emotion of, you know, it's whether it's a small event on the weekend against some buddies or a national championship at the biggest stage or somewhere in between, just like this was. It never really feels real. And sometimes we'll get kids on that have won multiple of them, and even then the third or the fourth one, you still get that raw emotion of what it's like to be able to get the victory. So cool to hear that. 43 pounds, 15 ounces, like we said. After day one, you were sitting behind the leaders just a little bit, made that charge on day two. Let's go ahead and get into the fishing real quick. What were you doing out there at Clarks Hill? For those that aren't familiar with the lake, I've never been myself, but kind of have a little bit of an idea of what sets up. It's kind of similar to what you're used to over there in that Georgia, South Carolina area. As you push east, it's a little clearer. It can get deep. It's got places for them to set up, and right now, frankly, this time of the year over there, some of the best fishing is these fish are in the late winter pre-spawn pattern. Kind of talk a little bit about what you were targeting and how you caught your fish.
Yeah, so to kick that off, day one, it was a struggle for me. I was the last boat out, or second to last boat, and I had a little bit of motor complication and starting up and moving to area. But next thing I knew, I had a lot of people in the areas that I practiced in, and I just had to scrap practice. I had to go out fishing, and I pulled up in this area that had a lot of seagulls working. I didn't find anything on the seagulls, but I went to the closest point, and man, they were set up just right, and I caught a pretty quick limit and a solid limit, if that, on day one. But day two, I knew I had to get a mega sack, or at least get close, because there's a lot of good people on the circuit, the college circuit, and I just knew I had to get that giant bite to just separate myself from the crowd. And honestly, I really didn't know what I was going into day two, because I did do practice work on day two. I did go back to old stuff since I was the first boat out, and it definitely paid off doing that. And then I retreated to the areas that I learned on day one, and I made a pretty giant comeback around 12 o'clock, and man, it was a blast. And like I said, I had a lot of nerves. It didn't kick in. I knew I probably won, but man, it was just, it was wordless. I can't.
Let's talk baits real quick, what you were throwing at them. This time of year, shad, especially over there on those lakes, like we were talking about, can be a key deal. Also, you get a little bit of the crawfish, pre-spawn, the reds, the greens, the deeper colors. Probably a pretty good chance that most of these anglers were fishing suspended fish, which kind of lends itself to being more shad-oriented. Talk a little bit about the baits that you were throwing at them.
Yeah, so the first areas that I hit first morning, it is definitely largemouth keying in on herring. So I had to go more of a herring presentation. So I threw a Demiki rig, and man, it worked out with the Demiki rig with the herring fish. But then later when that sun came up, I knew those herring fish would get finicky, and so I switched over to the shad eating bass up shallow and rocks and crawfish eaters, and I just threw glides, and I did throw the Demiki rig. I think they thought that was a shad as well, so it definitely panned out perfectly for both situations. But I think the glide was definitely one of my big bite catchers, and it definitely saved my bacon on this tournament. So
From day one to day two, pretty solid improvement. Like you said, you knew you had to go out and swing for the fences to get the job done, that of which you did. What changed? Were there, you talked about going out boat number one on day two, maybe that factored in, as you mentioned, but also did you miss anything on day one? Did you just get bigger bites on day two? Kind of talk about what that increase in weight from day one to day two, what contributed to that?
yeah, so the fog delay on day one definitely set back a lot of people not having a fog delay on day two. It definitely changed the time and the time of bites they got and I got as well, for sure. But yeah, no, the the time of day it definitely had a lot to do with what I was on. The bites were there. It's just getting them to bite was one of my biggest challenges. But going out bright and early and swinging for the fences, I cranked out a pretty good bag pretty early, and I was probably done catching 21 pounds before 12 o'clock. So it definitely packed a punch early, and yeah, so.
We're talking with Anderson Jones from fourth-ranked Lander University, winner of the Bassmaster College Series event that took place just last week over at Clarks Hill. Had a two-day total weight of 43 pounds, 15 ounces, also earning valuable points towards the Bass Pro Shop School of the Year presented by Abu Garcia. As we said there, Lander's currently ranked fourth. They have 20,085 points, so let's shift focus from the event to now the Bass Pro Shop School of the Year presented by Abu Garcia. Lander University, I believe in one of the first rankings of the season, if not the very first one, opened the year ranked number one. They've hung around there, around the top 10, currently sitting in fourth. Anderson, real quick, just the season so far, it started back this summer. It's going to end the first week of June here coming up, not too far away. Kind of give us a summary of how you feel like the team has done over the course of the past 8 to 10 months.
Yeah, the team, tremendous progress. Freshman year, we weren't much of anything just yet because we transferred over from a club team to now a actual sports team. And man, the progress, the new folks that have come in, it's taken off like a rocket. And I really have high hopes for the Lander bass fishing team. Everybody's pretty dedicated to fishing, and we're trying to climb that giant ladder up to the top. But man, it's going to take some work, and we got lots of work to do. So let's make it happen.
Yeah, as a team trying to get going, trying to get set up, we saw a similar journey from Carson Newman, I believe, about the time that I started working here. They were functioning as a club, if I have all this recounted correctly, and now they're right there pushing towards the top. Coach Hunter Sales was on one of the team one of the last years, I believe, that it was a club. Now they've got it organized as a team, and it's been a couple-year challenge. So you've got your work cut out for you there, but you know that it's definitely possible. Already seeing results from what the work that y'all have put in, being in fourth, just over 2,000 points behind first place. Real quick, referencing the event that you just won, being able to contribute to the points for your team there at Lander. Talk a little bit about the significance of that, earning valuable points to help boost those double points that y'all ended up receiving to get you all the way up to fourth.
Yeah, I definitely have worked my tail off to try to help out the team in my part, especially being by myself. It's definitely been a little bit of a handicap situation, but each and every single one of us, we're trying to reach the top 10 finish in these major bass events just to get points up. And man, we are making tremendous progress. And I know I've seen progress in myself, so I'm pretty excited on what next. But let's make it happen, and we got lots of work ahead of us. So.
You bet, man. From the team aspect, let's talk about you specifically, and as you fish by yourself, kind of highlight you as an angler and talk about your journey to get where we're at. Maybe heard a little bit of it on the stages. I was watching weigh-in here at the office as it was taking place, so I wanted to have an opportunity to talk on it. Kind of talk about your introduction to bass fishing. We had Emil, who's fishing the Bassmaster Opens. He's going to be a part of the AFCO Bass Boot Camp. We got to hear his journey, and as I was setting up the question to him and how he got involved with fishing, I just kind of prefaced it with, you hear a wide range of everything, right? Yeah, your granddad might have introduced you. Your dad could have been a hardcore angler. You might have just naturally gravitated towards fishing and no one in your family had ever done it before. Kind of talk a little bit about your fishing journey and how you've gotten to where you are with competitive bass fishing.
Yeah, so I would probably blame my dad for my passion of fishing. We used to go out fishing all the time and trying to catch the biggest bass in our state, and unfortunately, it hasn't happened yet, but it will. But no, we used to fish lots of redfish tournaments. I was more of a saltwater angler. I didn't really get into bass fishing competitively, but I bass fished, and I just didn't get serious into, learning their habits and all that until like the end of high school. And I came to college, and that's when things started, sparking and making fires. And I just been going out when I can and just learning and just doing lots of homework for sure. I think that's key to being successful too, is doing your homework, because man, without just learning the habits of the fisheries around us and other states, man, it's definitely can give you a better look at the way the lake sets up. But no, it definitely is my dad. It definitely started with him teaching me how to fish, and I will probably cherish that and won't stop fishing for a very long time. So we'll see where it goes.
Red fishing and bass fishing definitely have some similarities, but where you're located at, these lakes that you're getting the winds on, totally different from probably how you ever fish for redfish. So tell me, redfish, very shallow, sometimes very visual. Talk a little bit about something maybe that you took from red fishing that you brought over to bass fishing that's helped you make this transition so quickly.
Yeah, so red fishing, it was a blast when I was competitively fishing in tournaments for redfish. We would throw chatterbaits, jigs, the same typical bass lures, but like you said, in a different setting. It's more of oyster banks, sand banks, mud flats, and there's been times where it becomes visible and you can see their tails up in the grass. And man, redfish is definitely a bass fishing on steroids in my opinion, but yeah, bass fishing, you can't be hooking a big old head coming up and trying to shake off your lure. There's no similarity in that, but redfish, yeah, red fishing is definitely still with me, and I'm gonna be red fishing on the coast a lot more here pretty soon in the warmer stages of spring. But yeah.
One last question here as you talk about your journey. We'll wrap it up with how did you get to Lander? What was it that drew you to the team as you make that transition from fishing primarily on the coast to making it into the bass fishing world, and from high school to college, ending up at Lander on the team that's now ranked 4th in the country? Kind of talk a little bit about how that process came to be and why you chose to be on this team.
Yeah, so I chose Lander. It's pretty local to Greenville, South Carolina, where I'm from, and I didn't want to travel to a different school out of state and keep a boat over there. And I wanted to have the flexibility and coming back home, regrouping, spend some time with my family, and still have that, initial thing. But I chose Lander. It was still on the rise, and big things were happening to Lander when I first came. Having Brandon Cobb as one of our assistant coaches, that's been a big deal. He's definitely helped out. But I saw Lander as being a local school. I didn't want too big of a school to go, but because I was unsure about it, but about school, and Lander, didn't disappoint me, and I love it here, and I plan on staying for the next couple of years until I graduate.
That's awesome, man. Great to hear. That's been our guest, Anderson Jones, on this episode of the Rapala We Are Collegiate Bass Podcast, fishing for 4th-ranked Lander University. Got the major win at Clarks Hill, has his team inside the top 5 for the Bass Pro Shop School of the Year, presented by Abu Garcia. Anderson, thanks for taking the time to join us on the phone today. Safe travels out there on the trail, and best of luck for the rest of the season.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
Welcome to Minnow King. How can I help you?
Everything looks good. I'm friggin' starving, man. Been spawning all morning.
Ugh, TMI, bro. What do you want?
I'll take a Crush City freeloader and gizzard shad.
Anything to drink.
Water.
Pull ahead, please. Welcome to Minnow King.
We're gonna have what he's had.
Yeah, throw me in a Ned BLT, too.
Pull ahead, please.
Calm down. Quit feeding him so much.
Hey, man, I'm trying to, man. If you
If you overfeed him, he's gonna hide under a log.